In the autumn of 1941, deep inside the western territories of the Soviet Union, entire military columns began to move eastward. What was planned as an organized retreat slowly unraveled along forest roads and muddy fields. Units lost contact. Orders arrived late or not at all. Some of these columns were never seen again. By the summer of 1941, the Soviet Union was already fighting for survival. The German invasion had shattered border defenses and pushed deep into Soviet territory in a matter of weeks. Entire fronts collapsed faster than command structures could adapt. Retreats became routine, but few were properly coordinated. Rail lines were bombed. Roads were clogged with refugees, broken vehicles, and exhausted troops moving in opposite directions. In the western regions of the Soviet Union, scattered Red Army units received orders to withdraw eastward. The instructions were brief and often vague. Hold positions as long as possible. Destroy equipment that could not be moved. Regroup at designated points further inland. Maps were outdated. Communication equipment was unreliable. Many commanders relied on couriers who never returned. The terrain offered no mercy. Dense forests stretched for kilometers. Marshlands swallowed trucks and artillery. Autumn rains turned dirt roads into impassable channels of mud. Vehicles broke down and were abandoned. Horses collapsed from exhaustion. Soldiers carried what they could on their backs and left the rest behind. These columns were not elite formations. They were mixed remnants of divisions already damaged by weeks of combat. Infantry without proper support. Artillery units without ammunition. Medical detachments overwhelmed by wounded men who could no longer walk. Discipline existed, but it was strained by hunger, fatigue, and uncertainty. Air attacks were constant. German reconnaissance aircraft circled above roads and clearings. When columns were spotted, bombers followed. Soldiers learned to scatter into the trees at the sound of engines. Then they regrouped and continued moving. Slowly. Quietly. Always east. Civilians appeared along the roads. Some offered water or bread. Others watched in silence. Villages emptied as the columns passed. Houses stood open. Wells were already dry. No one knew who would arrive next. At night, fires were forbidden. Men slept in ditches or under trees. Officers gathered over maps illuminated by covered flashlights. Decisions were made with incomplete information. Which road to take? Which bridge might still stand? Which direction was safest? The retreat was not yet a disaster. It was still considered temporary. A movement meant to preserve forces for later battles. But the margins for error were already gone. Every delay increased the risk of encirclement. Every wrong turn led deeper into isolation. Somewhere along these roads, several columns began to drift away from the larger retreat. Not by choice. By circumstance. Broken bridges. Enemy patrols. Missed junctions. What followed would never be officially recorded in full. As days passed, the separation became irreversible. Small columns found themselves moving without clear knowledge of where friendly lines were located. Radio operators reported silence. Batteries were dead. Antennas were damaged. Runners were sent forward and did not return. The columns continued moving east, but the front itself was moving faster. German armored units advanced on parallel routes, cutting across roads and sealing off escape corridors. What had been a retreat slowly turned into a blind march through hostile territory. Food supplies ran out first. Bread was rationed into thin slices. Horses were slaughtered when they could no longer walk. Cooking was done at night, far from roads, with damp wood that produced little heat. Wounded soldiers were carried until strength failed. Then they were left behind with whatever bandages remained. Encounters with the enemy were sudden and brief. A machine gun burst from the treeline. A mortar shell falling among marching men. No large battles. Just fragments of violence that broke cohesion and forced the columns to scatter and reform again and again. Officers struggled to maintain order. Some enforced strict discipline. Others allowed flexibility, understanding the conditions. Rank still mattered, but survival mattered more. Men followed voices they trusted, not insignia. The landscape erased movement. Tracks disappeared in mud. Rain washed away footprints. Vehicles left behind rusted quickly. Papers were burned to prevent capture. Unit banners were buried or destroyed. Identity itself began to dissolve. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some said friendly forces were just ahead. Others claimed the Germans had already closed the ring. No one could verify either. Marching continued because stopping meant certainty. Occasionally, a village appeared untouched by war. In those places, silence was unsettling. Doors were closed. Livestock gone. Wells empty. The columns passed through without staying long, afraid of drawing attention. Illness spread. Dysentery. Fever. Infection. Medical staff had little left to offer beyond words. The pace slowed further. Gaps opened between groups. Night movements became chaotic. Men lost their units and never found them again. By late autumn, snowfall began. Thin uniforms offered no protection. Boots fell apart. Frostbite claimed fingers and toes. Fires were lit despite the risk. Smoke rose briefly before being extinguished. The columns were no longer columns. They were fragments. Groups of tens. Sometimes fewer. Still moving. Still hoping the next road would lead out. None of them knew that the war had already passed them by. The final encounters came without warning. Not battles. Traps. German units had sealed the area days earlier. Roads were monitored. Forest paths were watched. The remaining groups walked into fire from unseen positions. Short. Controlled. Efficient. There was no pursuit afterward. No need. Some groups attempted to break through at night. They crawled through marshes. They crossed frozen streams. They cut through wire with bare hands. Few succeeded. Most were scattered again by flares and gunfire. Others chose to hide. They abandoned weapons. They buried uniforms. They waited in forests, hoping the front would shift back. Weeks passed. Winter deepened. Hope thinned. Surrender was not organized. It happened in silence. Individuals stepping out of the trees. Hands raised. Names forgotten. Records incomplete. Many never entered official prisoner lists. Some groups never encountered the enemy at all. They simply vanished. Exhaustion. Cold. Disease. The forest absorbed them. Bodies left where they fell. Covered by snow. Then leaves. Then time. No formal reports were written. Commanders who survived had other disasters to explain. Units listed as destroyed or missing were merged into statistics. Numbers replaced names. After the war, these retreats were rarely discussed. There were no victories to highlight. No heroes to celebrate. No clear enemy to blame. Just absence. The roads they marched on returned to silence. The forests regrow. Villages rebuilt or disappeared entirely. Maps changed. Borders shifted. The columns were never found again as units. Only fragments remained. A helmet in a swamp. A rifle beneath roots. A mass grave uncovered decades later without identification. History moved on. The retreat did not end with a command. There was no final order transmitted over radio. No written directive reached the last groups moving through the forests. The movement simply stopped. Somewhere between villages that no longer existed and roads that no longer led anywhere, the columns dissolved. Men stopped marching. Not together. One by one. A wounded soldier who could not rise. A sentry who fell asleep and did not wake. A small group that chose a path that never reconnected with the others. There was no single moment of collapse. Only gradual disappearance. Winter erased what remained. Snow-covered tracks. Rain washed away signs of passage. Equipment rusted where it had been dropped. Papers burned for warmth or secrecy turned into ash and vanished. Identity faded first. Names followed. After the front moved east, the land stayed quiet. No units returned to reclaim what was lost. No recovery teams searched the forests. The war demanded attention elsewhere. New battles. New catastrophes. New numbers. Reports listed formations as missing. Then as destroyed. Then they were absorbed into totals. Thousands became statistics. Statistics became footnotes. Footnotes disappeared. Some men survived captivity. Others escaped months later and rejoined different units. Many never spoke of where they had been. Their stories did not fit official narratives. They carried memories without witnesses. Others never emerged at all. They remained where they had fallen. In shallow graves. In marshes. In forest clearings that slowly closed around them. Years passed. Trees grew. Roads shifted. Villages were rebuilt or abandoned again. Decades later, fragments surfaced. A helmet uncovered by a plow. Bones found during construction. A rifle pulled from peat soil. No names attached. No units identified. Just confirmation that someone had once been there. There were no monuments raised for these columns. No anniversaries marked their disappearance. Their retreat had no victory and no dramatic defeat. Only absence. History moved forward without them. What remains is silence. Not heroic. Not tragic in a visible way. Just empty space where movement once existed. Paths that led nowhere. In a retreat that ended not in surrender or destruction, but in oblivion. These stories are rarely told. Subscribe if you want to hear the next one.